What's up, guys? As part of preparing for the enterprise store, I'm doing a lot of work with VERO research and trying to figure out how I can prevent any kind of violations I may get from posting huge amounts of items. So there is a list that eBay has of all of these kind of VERO things, and I'm going to talk to you about working with this list and discuss some of the pros and cons of this list, okay? But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about the enterprise store, because we gotta make sure, it's really important that we do a lot of filtering because we're scaling a lot more. I'm realizing this now because I didn't really have a specific goal for the number of listings that I was going to post for the enterprise store, but I do know that insertion fees are much cheaper, and now it's going to be $2,000 per 100,000 listings cheaper than it was before. So very much in my best interests. And also, that number goes to $3,000 once you pass $100,000, because the 5 cents insertion fee is what currently has been happening, right? But enterprise store means 3 cents for 100,000 items, and then only 2 cents for every item after that, as long as you buy in chunks of like 10,000 or 50,000, but that's completely doable. And so it actually means that the second 100,000 items you post is significantly more profitable than the first 100,000 items you post. So it rewards you for being even bigger. And this enterprise store was definitely not made for dropshippers, like absolutely not. This store was made to encourage existing retailers, like places like Target and like other big stores like that, to sell items on eBay and to figure out how to do that, right? Because they want to be like, hey, just load your products into eBay, especially if you have an existing system to ship your products. It's going to be great. You're just going to get more sales and give us some of the money from it. You're going to be great. Yeah, it's cool. But yeah, the enterprise store, as the name implies, is for those big companies. But I get to really benefit from it, specifically because of the kind of model of business that I run, which is awesome, and I'm really excited about that. So what we have to figure out is how to eliminate most of these VERO problems, because if we can get out of them straight away before we even post the list, that would be great. So let me talk to you about what I have been doing so far. So far, the way I've handled this is by just posting items, and then when I get dinged for something, then I keep a record of what I've been dinged for, so that I don't get in trouble with that company again, right? And I wasn't very great about that until probably this year, really, because I've really developed that database to be much bigger and been much more diligent about recording every time I delete an item or I have to respond to something or something bad happens, and I've really put it into that database. So I've worked a lot on that. But at this point, there is a list on eBay of all of the people who are actively looking to see if you're using their brand. And for traditional dropshippers, like if you're optimizing, maybe it's not so great to go through this whole list, because the reality is not necessarily all of them are enforcing it, yada yada. But my point here is that I thought, okay, there's this list of VERO participant profiles. I can just look at the list and just eliminate every company. The reality is most of these participant profiles, and if you want to see what I'm talking about, go into the description and click on the link, okay? And it's a list of all the people who don't want you to use their images and their photos and their descriptions, all that kind of stuff, right? So if you go to that list, you're going to see that it's not made for dropshippers. That's not what the mentality is. The mentality with eBay is a place for auctions. eBay is a place to resell stuff that you already bought. eBay is a place for traditional sellers. Obviously, dropshippers are increasingly more common, but most of the legislation and the things about eBay, that's what they think of, right? So what you find is that on this page, it's stuff like, okay, a specific artist who made a specific painting, and then he sees that people are using that painting on the website, and he doesn't like that, right? So he has a profile up. In our situation, that doesn't really help us, because the chance of this one particular painting being something that we're selling an image of is really unlikely. But then if you go to the page of Procter and Gamble, who own things like Tide and Febreze and a bunch of brands, that page has a list of all of the brands that they don't want people to sell. So that page in particular has like 20 keywords that can eliminate loads of products because those are really common, well-known brand names, and there's tons of different variations of them. So certain pages are much more lucrative when it comes to our intention of eliminating these problems, whereas other pages are just like, it's an artist's name, like that's all I have to work with, that's all I can do. Kind of silly, right? But I figured I'd show you guys this, or at least make sure that you know that this database exists. So if you are worried about VERO, there's things you can do to make it less likely. And I'm going to be doing more videos with you guys about this to see, okay, in the past the way I operated was just don't make the same mistake multiple times, right? So if I got in trouble with a certain company, I would identify the keyword to identify the listings that got me in trouble and then add that to my negative filter, right? But I haven't actually gone through and made a database of all the people who are registered as like people who enforce VERO and who don't want you using their images. So what I'm going to go through now is go through all of these links and determine which ones have keywords that can be used to eliminate problematic items, and then add all of that into the negative filter database. And I'll share this with you guys. It's kind of cryptic because, you know, I try and incentivize people who have the course because it's only 20 bucks. So I give, like, there's certain links in the course that are easier to find. Whereas on the YouTube channel, you have to know or remember the video that it was first shared on. So I make it a little bit more inconvenient. But if you want to find the negative filter, there is a video public on YouTube that you can go find and find it in the description. It's just a matter of you doing that time, right? So yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. And this is going to be a kind of video I'm trying to do more often. I bought an iPhone X and I invested because I haven't had an Apple product in a while. And considering my circumstances, having a device that has a really solid microphone and a really solid video camera, it's good for somebody who makes YouTube videos and, of course, for a living, right? All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, okay? Ciao.